I'm 100 years old. My name is Dorothy. Dorothy May Callahan. I've been saying that name my whole life. At school, at church, at the front desk of every doctor's office I've ever walked into. Dorothy May Callahan. But there were years, long years in the middle of my life, when I stopped saying it with any weight behind it. It was just a name, just something written on a form. I didn't realize what that meant until much later. If you're younger than me, sit down for a moment. If you're around my age, pull your chair a little closer. I'm not going to tell you something that will change your life. I'm just going to tell you what happened to mine. What I learned slowly, the way you only learn things that cost you something real. I was born in 1925. I don't say that to impress you. I say it so you understand that when I talk about the world being different, I'm not exaggerating. There were no cell phones, no internet, no one talking about wellness or longevity or aging in place. You just lived. And then you got old. And then, if you were unlucky or unprepared, someone put you somewhere and called it care. I watched that happen to my mother. She was a strong woman, proud. She raised 6 children on a teacher's salary, in a house with 1 bathroom and a furnace that never worked right, in January. She didn't complain. She didn't ask for help. And then, in her late 70s, she stopped doing things. Small things at first. She stopped walking to the mailbox, then stopped cooking, then stopped answering the phone herself. We thought we were helping her when we started doing those things for her. I'm not sure we were. She was in a nursing home by 82. She lived there 7 years, and I used to visit her and see this look on her face. Not sadness exactly, more like distance. Like she had already left the room even while she was sitting right in front of you. I swore I would never look like that. I turned 70 and made myself a quiet promise. Not loud, not written down anywhere. Just something I said to myself one morning while I was standing at the kitchen window watching the birds at the feeder my late husband Harold had built before he passed. I said, "Dorothy, you are not going to disappear." That was it. That was the whole promise. But keeping it, that took something. The first thing I did every single morning without exception was go outside. I know that sounds small, but it wasn't small, not the way I did it. I didn't just step onto the porch and come back in. I walked. Not far, not fast. Some days just to the end of the block and back. But I went. Rain, cold, the kind of gray winter mornings where everything looks like it's given up. I went anyway, because I understood something my mother never did. Something I only understood because I watched what happened to her. Your world is exactly as large as you make it. When you stop going out, the world doesn't wait for you. It just closes a little, and then a little more. And eventually your whole life is the distance between your bed and your chair. And that's not living. That's waiting. I didn't want to wait, so I walked. 30 years of mornings I walked. My knees ached. My hips complained. Some days I moved so slowly that the neighbor's cat could have lapped me twice. I didn't care. I was still moving. I was still out there, among the living. And that mattered more than I can explain to you right now. There was a woman on my street, Eleanor, who used to walk with me sometimes in the early years. She stopped around 80. Said it was too hard. I understood. It was hard for me too. But she stopped completely. And within a year she looked different. Something behind her eyes had changed. She moved into her daughter's house the next summer. She didn't want to. I think she just ran out of reasons to fight it. The second thing I did was talk to someone every day, out loud. A real voice. Not a card, not a note, not a comment on something on a screen. A conversation, actual words going back and forth between 2 human beings. After Harold died, The quiet in this house was something I was not prepared for. We'd been married 51 years. 51 years of someone else's footsteps, someone else's breathing, someone else leaving a coffee cup on the wrong counter. And then, nothing. Just the refrigerator hum and the wind in the eaves. Silence like that can make you believe things that aren't true. It can make you believe that you've already finished, that the important part is over, that nobody needs to hear your voice anymore. I refused to believe that. So every day I found someone to talk to. The woman at the pharmacy, the mail carrier, the young man at the grocery store who always seemed surprised when I asked him how his week had been. Some days the conversations were nothing. Weather, prices, nothing important. But they kept something alive in me that I think would have dimmed otherwise. Because here's what I came to understand. When no one hears you, after a while you stop having things to say. And when you stop having things to say, you start to disappear in a way that has nothing to do with your body. I've seen it. I've watched sharp, wonderful people go quiet over time. And it's not always illness that takes them. Sometimes it's just that the silence won. Nobody won that fight without a fight. I also kept making my own decisions, right up to last year. What I eat, when I sleep, who comes into my home, and when they leave. What I spend my money on, what I will and will not agree to. Small things to anyone else, everything to me. Because the moment you stop deciding, someone steps into that space. And they mean well, almost always. Your children mean well, your doctors mean well, the people who love you mean well, but they are not you. And a life managed by people who mean well is still a life that belongs to someone else. I had one of my daughters, the youngest, Patricia, try to talk me into moving closer to her about 15 years ago. She had reasons, good reasons even. I was alone. The house was big. The winters were hard. Everything she said was true. I said no. Not because I didn't love her. Because I wasn't finished yet. Because there were still things I intended to do in this house, in this town, in this life. And I wasn't going to hand the ending of my story to someone else, just because it would be more convenient. She understood eventually. And I made sure I was still needed. That one surprised me, when I figured out how much it mattered. It wasn't enough to survive. I had to still matter to someone. Because when you don't feel necessary, something in you gives up a little. I've seen it. People who lose their purpose age faster than people who lose their health. I really believe that. So I kept showing up for people. I made phone calls to friends who lived alone. I brought things to neighbors. I wrote letters, real ones, with stamps. I sat with people when they were sick. Not because anyone asked me to be a saint, because I needed to be needed, and I think most of us do, even when we won't admit it. Now, I am going to say something to you directly, and I hope you'll hear it the way I mean it. Not as advice from someone who figured everything out, but as something I noticed too late in some ways, and just barely in time in others. Your independence is not something that will be taken from you all at once. It leaves slowly, quietly, in the small surrenders you make because you're tired, or it's raining, or you'll deal with it tomorrow, or it's just easier to let someone else handle it. You don't notice it going. And then one day you look up and realize that the distance between you and your own life has grown very wide, and you're not sure how to get back across it. So while you still can, go outside, even when you don't want to. Speak to people, out loud. Make your own decisions, even the inconvenient ones. Prepare for the future honestly, while you still have the strength to shape it. And find someone, somewhere, who needs you for something, anything. Not because these things will save you from everything. Nothing saves you from everything. But they will keep your life yours for longer. And I believe, with everything in me, that there is nothing more worth protecting than that. If this reached you somewhere real, I would be glad if you subscribed to this channel, so that these conversations can keep finding the people who need them. And if you have a moment, leave a comment below. Tell me something about your own life, your own habits, your own fears about getting older, or something you watched happen to someone you loved. I would like to know. These things matter more when they're shared, like this video, if it meant something to you. Share it with someone who might need to hear it, a parent, a friend, someone who is getting quieter than they used to be. I'm going to close with this. I'm 100 years old. I woke up this morning in my own bed. I made my own coffee. I walked to the end of my street and back, and when I came home I sat in Harold's old chair by the window, and I watched the birds at the feeder, the one he built with his own hands more than 30 years ago. And I thought, I'm still here. I'm still Dorothy Mae Callahan, and today still belongs to me. That is everything. Don't let your life shrink before it has to, because the life you protect today is the one you'll be grateful for tomorrow. And tomorrow comes faster than you think.